Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Please come into the hall and grab a seat. There's plenty of room here at the front. Feel free to take a seat where there's available, and we'll be starting in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So feel free to come in. There's plenty of seating here in the front, so you can filter in. There's plenty of space. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. We're going to be starting shortly. Thank you for making the time. We really appreciate the effort for everyone coming out. Welcome to Generation Schools Somerset West. Just a few house rules before we start. If we can just ask everyone to please put your phones on silent. Flash photography is allowed, so you can start now if you want. It's okay. I do charge by the hour. So we'll be starting shortly, so all phones off, and then at the end of the session there'll be a Q&A, so feel free to ask some questions about anything that you've heard this evening. Okay, cool, so I'll be passing over to Janine. Here we go.
Good evening once again, and thank you to all of you for being here. To some of the parents, I know this could be the second or third evening in a row, so I really do appreciate your time. The purpose really of this evening is to give you some information, maybe some exciting news with regards to our 7 to 12 year offering, to let you know some of the new innovations, and that is why we have people like Jevron Epstein and Sandra de Aubrey here, so welcome to you, who will be speaking to you just to give you some more information. From my side, it's really just to allay some fears maybe, or to give you an indication that our academic pathway will continue as the IEB curriculum in grade 7 to 12 with touches of Cambridge, so that you're getting the best of both worlds. Obviously our specialist teachers will continue to function in that speciality. The idea of using education not just about learning content but about life skills is very, very important to us, and we spent a lot of time over the last few weeks deliberating about why are we here, what do we want for the children at our school, and how can we make that learning experience a positive and enjoyable one. Looking at things like, why do we do homework? What is the reason for it? Are we overloading our children with homework? And how can we make classroom experiences more positive? Also, why are we so obsessed with marks all of the time? They are important, but there also needs to be time for creativity and enjoyment and learning to think. Think about how we study. Think about how our brains work and how we use them, and not just rote learn content for the sake of it. So there's been a lot of conversation in our staff development about why are we here and what is our purpose. And we've also realized the world is changing. It's evolving very quickly. Our children are changing. They're not the same as we were when we were their age. So much has happened in the world, and we need our children to be adaptable. They need to be able to mold and shape and, I think in a way, model their future. And so for us, it's very much around life skills. What is the world of work looking like? What do you need to be able to function in that world of work? And also to start thinking about, do we have to follow traditional pathways? And that's why I'm very excited to have Jevron and Sandra here to speak to you about some of the new initiatives. And we also have a new initiative in terms of our outreach camp program. So I'm going to step back for a moment and introduce you to Mr. Mark Pickering, and he's going to speak to you about, some of your children might have told you about it today, a new initiative for our grade 9s from next year, which is called Gen Reach, and he will fill you in on that, and then we will proceed with the very interesting news that Jev and Sandra have to share with us. So thank you very much. Please sit back and enjoy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that, Janine. My name is Mark Pickering, and I'm joining Generation Schools Somerset West in 2022. But I had the pleasure of speaking to the grade 8s today. We had a chat about some of our plans for 2022. As Janine mentioned there, Generation Reach, where we're going to be doing learning outside of the classroom. We're going to be, with the Generation Reach part, it was really enjoyable to ask the grade 8s what they understood by the word reach, and got some feedback on what they understood by the word reach. Mrs. Fain, their English teacher, was there, so they did feel a little bit of pressure to give a nice explanation of the word reach. And I would summarize some of the things they said were very powerful about going beyond what's comfortable for you, about giving more, about going for a goal. And it was really, really, really powerful. And this is just said in the introduction to my chat with the grade 8s this morning. And that is what it's about with our program for next year, is for our learners to reach beyond their comfort zone. And then I asked them why are we going for that? What's the point of reaching beyond your comfort zone? And believe it or not, they said that's where growth happens, which was pretty darn powerful for grade 8s. So we're going to be harnessing that in next year, November time. We're going to be doing an outreach program that's 2 weeks in length in the town of Greyton, where we've got some community service projects lined up, meaningful projects that we build up to throughout next year, throughout the first and second and third term, as we build that reach within our students. But then we're going to go to a community and help that community reach new levels in their belief as well. So that's what we're kickstarting next year, which is very, very exciting, and it is going to involve everyone at the school, the community, and we're looking for support on that front, whether you know someone who has awesome tents, if you know someone that might have a vehicle we can use as we mission around in the town of Greyton, changing our kids' lives and changing other kids' lives, which is a real I think, goal that as South Africans we need to have and get going. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're going to be driving, pushing next year with Generation Reach. And the grade 9s will be powerhousing that next year, the pioneers of that. And we look forward to building it from year to year and changing lives of our kids and others from year to year. It's not just, so that's it in a nutshell. The grade 8s, I hope they told you quite a lot more. I spoke to them for about 50 minutes about it, so I answered lots of questions on that, about food, from whether we're going to have to walk there, which I did clarify with them. We're not going to be walking there. We will safely bus ourselves there, and then from there we will get involved on a very meaningful level. I don't know if there's space for questions about it now, or is that a little bit later? A little bit later. Okay, so that's Generation Reach 2022. Be excited about it. It shouldn't just excite you if your child's in grade 9 next year. It should excite the entire generation community. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Awesome. Looking forward to that project. I think it's very necessary, specifically in the times that we are in now. Thank you for joining us this evening. I think I'm going to start off, before I start the presentation, just echoing Janine's sentiments with regards to academic sort of solidification, what the school already offers. I did the presentation of our alternate school exits at our Komiki campus in Imhoff, and I got told after the presentation that, one, it was too technical and a little bit heavy, and then the second thing is that it was a bit overwhelming. So I'm going to try to not make it as overwhelming, and just once again speak to what Janine said, that the school offers what the school offers. But what's quite interesting in schooling is that matric isn't your only option. Just by a raise of hands, could I just see from anyone in this room who knows that there are other options other than matric? Okay, so there are a few of you. It'll be interesting to see how much of this information dovetails to what you already know. Okay, so the terminology SCI, when the word is used, people generally feel like, they're not too sure what it means. So I'm going to give you a bit of a definition of SCI. All the words on the screen you can read yourselves. I'm going to give you more of an explanatory journey throughout this presentation. So SCI, in definition, is a system of instruments. And what that means is, it means that a centimeter and a meter mean the same thing on the basis of distance. However, they're quantifiably different, and no different to education. So what SCI does is it offers the same qualifications, which are quantifiably different. So it is a basket that contains multi-curricular options, as well as school exits that sit as options for parents at the school. It also sits as external qualifications that children can do up and above their current qualifications, and it also houses an opportunity to actually present those students with the opportunities of work from these qualifications in the future. An interesting definition for SCI is that the main set of qualifications that we will offer at this campus from next year are International Access Qualifications. And for those that see the marketing buzzwords from other institutions around the globe, it's become the latest thing. An International Access Qualification gives you access into higher education, which means that it's a qualification registered through higher education, not necessarily through schooling. So generally what happens is children go to school, they go through this educational journey, they get a qualification, and that qualification gives them access into a new institution, which is higher education. What we've done is we've just reversed it. We've gone to higher education and said to them, what do you require from students to get access into your learning? So what we've done is we've created a grouping of qualifications that give you access into higher education versus giving you a matric, which is what higher institutions look at to give you access into their studies. The qualifications are classified as international access qualifications, which means that they are internationally accredited. So if a student would like to go and study in the UK, in the US, or in Australia, and generally throughout Europe too, these qualifications will give them access. The difference between these qualifications is that, yes, they are the same level as a matric, and a matric sits at the National Qualification Framework as a level 4. However, they are themed-based, not subject-based. So these qualifications are derived and designed around university subjects versus school subjects. And for those that have studied through university will know that university creates theme-based learning, where schools create subject-based learning, and they use themes within subjects. So a bit more information on international access qualifications and what sits within the SCI framework. In the SCI framework, which is a basket full of different qualifications, we have global international access qualifications, and we've also created a localized South African qualification through the CAT-CETA. What's quite interesting to understand from the CAT-CETA's perspective is that in South Africa, to get into schooling is governed in our country by Umalusi, which is the governing body for schools, and Umalusi says that every child that is registered with Umalusi needs to do the CAPS curriculum or a derivative thereof, which is the IAB. However, from an international access qualification, it doesn't sit within that framework, which means the only other framework that exists in our country are the CETAs. CETAs are generally governed by the QCTO, which is once again a complicated web of different CETAs that form together to create what you would have had in the past as your TVET colleges. These international access qualifications that we offer at this campus are registered through the Awards of Higher Education, which are based in the UK, which is governed by Ofqual. Ofqual, like South Africa, is the equivalent of Umalusi. What's interesting about our qualification and where it's registered in the UK is it's the same registration as Cambridge, Oxford, and any other international examination board like Pearson and all the other variations that the UK have. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we only have Umalusi. In the UK, Ofqual have got more than 120 examination boards. In the UK, examination boards are split between two different forms. One are exam-based qualifications, and the other one are portfolio of evidence. In South Africa, we only have an exam-based portfolio with regards to access into higher education. However, there is parity amongst these qualifications, meaning that a student can get an ATHE accredited qualification, which is an international access qualification, to go into higher education in South Africa. It's a lot of information, but when these slides will be offered to you to have a look at it, to ask questions about, and to also understand for yourselves. Another interesting fact about the UK is that in the UK you can study your first and second year of varsity through distance base, through a qualification registration process with Ofqual, and do your final year, which is called a top-up year, at a university. In South Africa, unfortunately, if you study at a university, so let's say you go to UNISA, and you study 2 out of the 3 years, and decide you now want to move to UCT, the governance in our country says that you can only transfer a maximum of 50% of the credits of a qualification, meaning you can't interchange in your second or third year, and generally if you've done a first year through a university, you're only liable to 50% of the credits. So it's quite interesting and quite different between the different spectrums of higher education. However, our qualifications are designed to get you into both higher education in South Africa, higher education in the UK, as well as supplement your learning to get an equivalence of an A-level part of your matriculant qualification. Okay, so the difference between an international access qualification and a school exiting certificate is that an international access qualification prepares you for university, where a school matric prepares you for the exit of school and provides you with a ground base of knowledge to go to university. Because of the array of subjects offered in school, schools don't offer subjects, for argument's sake, like academic reading and writing, or financial literacy such as taxation rates, compound interest, VAT, capital gains tax, etc. It's touched on within accounting, but unfortunately it isn't something that's constituted or initiated within the curriculum framework. So it's more of a knowledge-based qualification. And when I say knowledge-based qualification, the purpose of the qualification, at the end of the duration, you create a portfolio of evidence that is moderated in the UK. And it's not about a pass or a fail. It's about, have you obtained enough knowledge to understand the qualification so that you can pass? This qualification is also graded, so you get a pass, a merit, and a distinction. The pass, merit, and distinction will also allow and determine whether you can go into higher education in our country by not having to do a higher certificate or go directly into a degree. Those technicalities can also be explained to parents on a case-by-case basis, but it does provide parents with a lot more choice and options, specifically in high school qualifications. The application of knowledge skill for me is quite important, as it provides a ground base of every subject that a student would do in an undergrad qualification. So it does prepare students well on the basis of being able to get into the qualification. An interesting concept about the International Access Qualifications globally is that universities used to have bridging years, where they would get a student in that hasn't met the requirements to get into a university, and they would provide them with a year of bridging so that they would pass in university. So all we have created is a bridging course that understands the requirements of a qualification that students can do to access that qualification. The pitfalls of an international qualification is that if you want to do medicine, if you want to become an engineer, if you want to study a science qualification like a microbiologist, etc., then you conventionally need to do subjects such as science, mathematics, biology, etc. International access qualifications don't offer silo-based subjects, so unfortunately excludes and precludes those industries of learning. So specifically, if a student wants to become a doctor, they would go the IAB route, finish school with all their qualifications, and then go into medicine. However, for qualifications like business, and I mean the full array of business from industrial psychology to finance to CA to human resource management to marketing to public relations, all of those qualifications as career-based subjects all sit within the international qualification framework. In a South African context, no different to a degree, is that you can only access higher education when you complete a matric. So if you spend 12 years of your life studying and you have a bad year for your examination, for whatever reason is, you aren't able to progress until you've completed that year. In an international access qualification, all of the qualifications are stackable, which means every year you complete the qualification, you obtain a qualification. So either a certificate, a diploma, a higher diploma, and a degree. An interesting fact about our international access qualifications is that South Africa is one of the very few countries that offer honours degrees. In the UK, your degree is an honours degree. So the equivalent in the UK to a degree is a level higher, as an entrance level, as a Bachelor of Arts honours qualification, and that also allows for progression into further studies. I know I'm giving this a lot of academic insight, but it is important on the understanding that this is a route specifically designed for people who would know which industry they want to get into. So if someone says, I want to go into business, it is a clear pathway that explains the process of going into business. I'll go into the qualifications that we'll offer shortly, but for me, specifically, I was involved in the academic mapping of the business qualification, so I have a lot of insight into it. The portfolio of evidence is also very important because those items you'll be able to reuse again. One of the portfolio of evidence items is a CV. Another one is an ability to understand academic reading and writing and to transcend information from a non-tangible basis to a tangible outcome as a portfolio of evidence. The qualifications that we'll offer from next year is that we will have an international access qualification in business. That business qualification, which I'm going to show you over here, is at 120 credits. And 120 credits is important because 120 credits is a guaranteed equivalent of a matric, because it's at 120 credits which is required to get into your next qualification. We also then have shorter qualifications, being a level 3 diploma in accounting, which is only 60 credits. We have a level 3 diploma in information and digital technologies, and one that has been left off the screen is in statistics and modeling. And the reason that's important is that if a student decides, I don't want to go into business, but I want to go into higher education, and I'm not a fan of the business-heavy content that I'll be doing, I can do 2 smaller qualifications, which once again are standalone qualifications, that added together give you a matric. It is also an ensurer that you are able to get into a South African university, because in essence, you could just do this qualification, the 30 credit qualification, which is a 4-month qualification that could get you into a UK university. However, we've seen with regards to our pilot studies and students that have gone through, students that only do 60 credits are not yet prepared for the qualification in university. So what we've done is we've said we would like to make it mandatory that students do the full 120 credits. It also gives them an opportunity to fall back to go to a South African institution if they aren't able to, for argument's sake, progress into UK qualifications. From the international access qualification perspective is that once you've completed this base of 120 credits, which can be done at the age of 16, all the way through until the age of 22, 25, etc., It doesn't have a time limit attached to it. We've had students that have finished school at the age of 15 who've progressed into university, and we've had students who've finished school at 22 and progressed into university. So it does allow for the student to move through the content at their own pace, and allows for flexibility for when that student is able to finish, when they decide to finish. These qualifications then give access into level 4 qualifications. What's important to understand that these level 3s on the top are UK level 3s, which in the equivalent of South Africa is a level 4. You then have access to your first year varsity, and you have access to your second year varsity. We will provide access to both years on campus, which means that we will provide first and second year varsity access, content, material, and mentorship, as well as educational support for our students. In the third year, which is quite interesting, you are able to either obtain your degree with us on campus as a distance-based student. You are no longer a generation school student. You will be a student of 120 different universities around the world, and you would do the final year with us on campus. If you decide, I've worked very hard, I'd like to go overseas, mom and them have saved up, because, and I'm going to go spend the third year overseas, you go to the University of Birmingham, Cardiff University, University of East London, Anglia Ruskin, Warwick University, and spend your final year there. An interesting price perspective for parents to understand is that the final year of a qualification in the UK is about £3,000, and that's on the top end. It could be less and it could be more, depending which institution you decide to go to. How our fee structures will work for next year is that you'll see that our SCI fee register hasn't come out yet. It probably is about 20% more cost effective in your final matric year, because we also want to offer this opportunity for students that decide to do the IAB matric and then transcend into our academic program. The final year, which will be the most expensive year, that's obviously paid directly to the institution. And when you graduate, you'll either graduate as an on-campus student with your degree, or you will graduate as a distance-based student with your qualification. These qualifications on the left-hand side here, these frameworks, are just to explain the difference between the NQF levels. Once again, a matric NQF 4 in the UK is a level 3, and it goes all the way through to degree. So degree in the UK is NQF level 6, and in South Africa it's an NQF level 7 degree. This is the framework to start with. We also have developed an MBA program. We have opportunities to go into doctoral programs as well overseas, so your PhDs, etc., and your master qualifications too. The reason that this is important is that this will all be built into our Junior to Giants program, which I'm going to let Sandra explain just now. The delivery of this program is quite interesting. So what we've done is that we've created all of the content up front for the full coursework all the way through to your degree. And the reason we've done it is we're not saying that your children will be online students. We're saying we're demystifying the content that will be required for a student to go through for them to obtain their qualification. Meaning a parent will have the ability to log onto the system, have an idea of the curriculum, also see the qualification and what's required for the qualification, but also be able to interrogate the information, maybe even use some of it in their current businesses, and be able to be on the same page as their child to understand exactly what their child is busy doing with. It also creates a conversational method between the parent and the student with regards to what it is that they are busy studying and why they are studying it. We do provide a face-to-face lecturer. It's a subject matter expert specifically in the different areas that we offer, and that subject matter expert will be there to guide the student through, and it's the private school of private education in private tertiary education that then links into private job placement through the Junior to Giant program. What it does do is it guarantees access into university, which once again is something that's quite important for some parents, where you know that if my child goes and they complete the work, they are guaranteed a place in the university. We cannot guarantee an on-campus space for whatever reason. If there's a fire and the university burns down in the UK. However, we can guarantee acceptance all the way through to university level. How the qualification is created, it's more about master classes, so an opportunity to ignite curiosity about the content that the students are doing, specifically in the undergrad degree, and allows for the student to be filled with passion about the job opportunities from the content. It's also linked to business outcomes, and when I mean business, I mean the day-to-day life of a student, whether they're doing travel and tourism or they're going to go work as a creative director in a business. They'll have access to what those people do with these qualifications, and that was the purpose of building the Junior to Giants program. This is another great qualification that we have, and it's a local and lacquer qualification. So we've recently acquired a stake in ETA College. ETA College is a 20-odd-old college in South Africa, started with Professor Tim Noakes and Dr. Steve Harris. Tim Noakes was later sold out, and it was born out of the Sports Science Institute. Dr. Steve Harris is the first South African to do a PhD in mental toughness. Very interesting human being, lovely guy to hear speak. He's a South African world champion lifesaver, and at the moment is the owner and CEO of, our partner and CEO of the ETA College. ETA College started off being a wellness institute that is the specialist and service provider of Virgin Active, where they train personal trainers. They also now have degree programs in sports management, business management, and in 12 months' time will release a business science degree as well as a specialized B.Ed teaching degree. We've recently rebanned ETA Varsity to ETA College, as we see ETA as an opportunity to confirm multiple other degrees, not necessarily only in the field of sports, wellness, recreation, education and business, but going into a variation of environmental friendly qualifications and other new age qualifications that aren't yet available in South Africa. The qualification that we'll offer from this campus from next year is we have a 28 credit NQF level 4. This qualification is a 4-month program that gives you direct access into a higher certificate. For those that don't know what a higher certificate is, the equivalent of first year varsity. And the reason it gives you access into only an NQF level 5, as we spoke about it earlier, it's not a full 120 credit qualification, which means it can't give you access into a degree program directly. However, it gives you access into a higher certificate. A student could start this qualification in January, do the 4 months, migrate directly into the higher certificate. Once the higher certificate is completed, they'll have access into one of the BA programs or the business science qualifications. What's interesting about this perspective is that once the student has completed the fitness instructors course, they are able to work within different entities, whether it's Virgin Active. You can even go into a yacht and go spend some time traveling the world, working in the gym on a yacht. So it is a qualification that allows for flexibility and movement for a student. We've recently had students complete our first pilot program in Sunningdale at our Sandown campus, and those students are a myriad of students that are either coaches on campus or students that are wanting to go and spend some time traveling, working on ships. And some of the students are those that are actually really interested in going into sports as a profession and realize that if they don't make it as a professional athlete, they can always go in to become a professional coach, whether it's in swimming or rugby or hockey or tennis, etc. The qualification on the left-hand side of myself is a full 162 credit qualification. It's a year qualification. Entrance requirement is at the age of 16. And once that qualification is completed, it gives you direct access into higher education, so your first year of your degree. The difference between this qualification and our International Access Qualifications, it is a local qualification registered with the Department for Higher Education and registered on the same basis as UCT, Stellenbosch, any of the Stadio universities, Varsity College, etc. Just going back on our International Access Qualifications, we have had students that have finished those qualifications to study in South Africa. Most of the students have gone on to do things like game design at Vega. Some of the students have gone through to Varsity College to go and study a BCom or BA degree. These students are not able to get access into government-run institutions. So anything that says the word university behind it requires a second language. And that second language would be a South African second language like Afrikaans or Zulu, etc. And because the International Access Qualification is not about language, you would not get access to UCT, to Stellenbosch, to TUX, to WITS. And that's always a notion that I put out to parents, because an International Access Qualification is directly deliverable on the basis that a student wants a global qualification. UCT and Stellenbosch are still phenomenal institutions, globally recognized. However, there are some parents that would like their children to have the opportunity to work abroad, and therefore offering them the ability to study at a broad university at a cost-effective manner. I'm not going to talk through too much about this, just explaining the ATHE awarding body again. It's available on the internet. You can go have a look. But it is an awarding agency in the UK. It's got multiple qualifications. And it is obviously accredited through the RQF, which allows you to also work throughout Europe. Obviously, with Brexit, it asks a lot of questions with regards to UK domicile qualifications. That has all been addressed, meaning that you could study with anywhere in Europe with an International Access Qualification. Students are also able to go study in places like America as well as Australia. The CAT CETA qualification, which I spoke to you about earlier, is the CETA that's responsible for culture, arts, tourism, hospitality, and the sports sector, also focusing within education. So the qualification that we designed from a South African perspective, as I said earlier, it couldn't go through Umalusi because it's not CAPS compliant, so it went through the CAT CETA at a full 162 credit, which means that this would be classified as a vocational school exit. that you would have done in the past through TVET colleges. However, we offer it and package it through a higher institution to get direct access into tertiary education. All of our qualifications have gone through the South African Qualifications Authority, meaning that we've gone through the paperwork of getting those qualifications validated. If a student, for argument's sake, did a Cambridge school exiting, when they finish and get their qualification, that qualification still needs to go through SAQA to obtain eligibility to be able to go study at a South African institution. For those that didn't know, Cambridge is not registered in South Africa as a secondary schooling product. It sits outside of the rules, and that's probably specifically around the history of England and South Africa, which we won't go into. However, it is an interesting notion that it is once again also seen from South Africa as a CETA-based qualification. But if you went to Cambridge and said your qualification is a CETA-based qualification, they would disagree strongly with you. Just some interesting information with regards to the South African Qualifications Framework, and I think this is important for parents to understand. Umalusi, as I said earlier, govern the schooling perspective. On the other side, you could have had the CETA qualifications, and they all run up until level 4. Once you go above level 4, it is for the Department of Higher Education, or Department for Higher Education, and then you can see here the stipulation of these qualifications. What's interesting about universities is universities no longer offer these qualifications. So if you finish 1 year of university, you get nothing. I've seen a couple of CVs recently where applicants have said, you know, I enrolled to do my BA degree or my BEd degree, and I've only got 2 modules left. Unfortunately, that means you have not completed your qualification, which means you do not have a degree, which means that you've spent X amount of years at the university, and until you complete your qualification, you have nothing to show for it. In a rapid changing world where we don't actually know what's around the corner, we've designed a framework that allows you to get qualifications as you progress. And what that is called stacking. Stacking is a global term in education that for some odd reason has never made it to South Africa. So what we are trying to do is pioneer and push through legislation so that all qualifications are stackable. I find it very difficult to understand that if a student has completed a first year of varsity, how have they obtained nothing? So therefore, in our actual qualification framework, they actually explain that there are these levels which students have actually achieved because a degree in South Africa has a minimum of 360 credits, which equates to 120 credits a year, which means technically you should be issued with a higher certificate, a diploma, and then a degree. The qualifications that we offer already through our International Access Qualifications go all the way through to doctoral level, which means that we do provide equivalence and cognitive ability for both sides. The qualifications that have to have gone through SAQA are ETA qualifications, ATHE qualifications, and Cambridge. The reason we don't have to mention IAB is because IAB firmly sits as an Umalusi accredited qualification. Thanks to the phenomenal team here, this school has recently gone through its Umalusi reaccreditation with the changing of hands, which means that it's a fully compliant school which allows students to access into universities without having to go through the South African Qualifications Authority. So the progression opportunities with regards to the qualifications is obviously something that's quite interesting. Once again, it allows for stackability. And not to get too lost in the detail, what it means is that for every year of service that you provide into the qualification, you obtain a qualification. Parents have often said to us, you know, from a schooling perspective, we've arrived at this campus, we've got a Montessori-inspired route, we have a Montessori purist route, I'm not too sure what, just Montessori route, and then you go into high school. So where is the Montessori continuity? So Maria Montessori died way before she even thought about the fact that she needed to go into high school. Also, the world has changed dramatically. She was around, I think they might have had an abacus, but there was no computer or technology yet in that space. We believe that the future, which I'm definitely not going to call Montessori specifically on the basis that these are qualifications that are new to the world, would be that form of pedagogical alignment to the qualification, which we determine as a space where students that, for argument's sake, come from mixed age group backgrounds, coming into environment, this would be like the option for purest thoughts of Montessori. It's always difficult for me to understand the aspect of having an enriched working cycle, specifically within a school perspective, and not allowing for it to continue. There are phenomenal students in this campus here who could ultimately decide that they will do IAB and one of these qualifications while they're at it, because there is no time continuum alongside these qualifications. These qualifications will also be available to all students as micro qualifications for free, meaning you won't get your certification, but you'll have access to our academic reading and writing module, which is imperative for any student going into university. So for argument's sake, the students, that the parents as well as the educators of the school will have access to that as a module to enrich students who are going into UCT, Stellenbosch, etc., as almost as a pre-U qualification. So all of this will be made available, this open source educational content for our educators on this campus that they can utilize, plug and play, and utilize within the classroom. This is an example, once again, of the top-up route, where you would get in our vocational path or our alternate pathway, you would finish your school with your diploma, 120 credits, anywhere from the age of 16 to 22, then access into your first year of varsity, your second year of varsity. Both these qualifications sit as diplomas. So on that scale where I showed you, you would get your first year qualification, you'd get your second year qualification, and then you would top up into an honours degree, as these universities do not allow for conventional qualifications. Anglia Ruskin University, which is the only other university located in Cambridge, as well as University of Derby. These are just quite a few examples of students that have already progressed into these institutions. An interesting notion, though, is that if a student completes a qualification, a degree through any of these universities, and then decides they want to study further at UCT, they can gain access into a South African university on the basis that they've already got a degree. So it's quite an interesting thought that you can't get access into these qualifications until you get the degree, but you could get the degree maybe by the time you're 19 and then go study your postgrad qualification there. We have had students that have gone into, we've had, I would call it outliers, where we've had students that have completed our AQA, International Access Qualifications, and have had access into South African universities. Unfortunately, what I've realized is that, we are all equal, but some people are more equal than others. And these are phenomenal sports people. So great swimmers, great tennis players, and in this case specifically phenomenal footballers who went through our AX football academy. They completed the international qualification, and both UCT and Stellenbosch made allowances for these students to go and study further as professional athletes. Once again, it is what it is, but I think in time laws will change. I think that if universities in our country weren't as inundated with applications, they would be more flexible. But in a country like South Africa, where there's only the minority that can get into these institutions, they have the ability to be picky. So why would they want to make their lives difficult to look and think about something that's different if they're already going to be fully clogged up with regards to the applications that they receive? Okay, so afterwards we'll have some questions and answers. I'm going to hand over to Sandra, who will explain the Junior to Giants program, which in essence is the shell that encapsulates these students for when they complete this qualification and when they are busy with the qualification. Because the purpose of going this route would not necessarily be the qualification, but the profession and employment thereafter.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Lots of information to take in this morning. I promise you my presentation isn't half as long, but it's very exciting for me to be able to stand in front of you today and share something so close to my heart, firstly, and something that we have placed so much work into over the last 4 months. So if you follow our social media, you would have perhaps seen some of our stories with the Junior to Giant program. It's exciting to share that we've placed our first 6 interns on this program successfully. They're all busy graduating from the program now, getting ready. Some of them already have left, but getting ready to start their internships. So if you understand Generation Schools education in its totality, you'll understand that what we focus on is education right through to profession. So what we soon learned as we grow is that there's a huge gap in education that doesn't necessarily equip the student for when they leave our building. And that's where the Junior to Giant program started from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a little bit of the framework. It's important so that you understand that this is a program that firstly is busy evolving, is campus specific, but is set on sound foundation. It has already evolved so much in the last 3 months in terms of what we envisioned it to be to what it is now, sitting in November. So we also envision that it will change shapes a few more times. So I'll take you through what the Junior to Giant program is. Just basically our mission, it's quite simple. What we look to do is we look to create a program that bridges the gap of from the theory of education to the reality of profession. We create space for students or interns that we imitate real life working situations so that our juniors have a voice at the table, can co-create their jobs that they're going to be looking for in the future, because we all know how that is shifting and changing. So if future careers aren't set out for yet, why shouldn't our interns or our current students not have a say in what this looks like? The why is quite simple. Once again, to reiterate, we bridge the gap between theory and reality. Again, what we do in our program is we facilitate the acquisition of skills and knowledge into the different working industries. We empower students, and a huge part of our program, what we're learning, is we create a space so that they can build confidence in all the academics that they've learned with us over the year. How do they now apply themselves in real working conditions? And that's what we've seen as the greatest prize through this process, is that confidence, the voice they find to be able to actually put themselves out there and practice this. Okay, so how do we get there? What it looks like is the Junior to Giant program is an applied for program. Very important. Just because you're a generation school student doesn't mean that you get onto the program. You apply for the program. And that is obviously to create, to move away from that sense of entitlement and understand that we actually have to put ourselves forward and want to apply ourselves into these beautiful programs our school has the ability to offer us. So it's applied for program. What it means is that once the student applies, we simulate real life a situation where they would go on an interview, they would fill out an application form. We would then put them on a process where we understand, their vocational interest. There is a part of a psychometric assessment that takes place there. They then go on to form part of our 3-month enrichment program. And again, this is one of the evolutions that have taken place. An example was we sat around the table with our interns, and it was the boardroom table, and it was nearing lunch, and one of them said, "What are we having for lunch?" And so we very quickly learned that we needed to equip these students with what real working situations look like. We take for granted that our students get offered snacks and lunch, they come to school, they've got a set out beautiful day, and so we very quickly realized there needs to be a huge part of enrichment to this program. So the first 3 months of this program looks like master classes, themed based around what we envision important themes to equip yourself to step out into the real working world. What that also looks like is an application into our business ventures. So working a shift, applying these skills in actually the kitchen, for example, or our Gen Brews, which is our coffee station, or one of our pump tracks, for example. What that also looks like is that the student or the intern would need to partake in a mentorship, so they would have a session per week with their mentor, which they would be assigned to, going through everything they have learned and being able to apply. That is for 3 months. After that 3 months, I'll take you through what the next steps look like. Okay, before we get there, it's important to understand that through this process, this is open to anyone from 16 years and older. So a question that came up was, is this full-time? If they don't decide to go the international access route or the vocational exit route, can they still be part of the program? The answer is yes. So our current students who we took through the process were with us full-time. And again, if you don't follow us on social media, you wouldn't know that we have a co-shared office space run by our interns at our Sandown office, where they are able to apply themselves again in running a fully functioning business. So we've had them full time, but what we've done is we've tailored it to be able to apply it into our campuses so that our students can still take part in their day-to-day learning, and this would then supplement. So if you can imagine sort of an extracurricular activity that they would apply themselves to. Okay. Right, a big part of our program is student accountability. Once they've gone through the 3 months of enrichment and applying themselves into the different business ventures that surface, or we put them forward to do, they would need to supply us with a portfolio of evidence, where they prove to us they have taken on and learned new skills along the way. And what that looks like is in the form of financial literacy, journaling, reflection, planning, nano courses and marketing. They would present this to a board, again simulating real world meetings or presentations, and then they would go on to receive their feedback. Once complete and they've shared their portfolio of evidence with us, they would then graduate from our program. We look to, in future, even accredit our program so that when you've been put on the Junior to Giant program, this is something that forms part of your credentials. This is something that can be added to your CV, and that's where we envision this program to go. The graduation process would be simple. It would be a certification and an ability to now open yourself up to the world of opportunities in terms of internships. So now that we can see that you've acquired skills and you're ready to step out into the real working world, we would open up opportunities of internships, and that's a huge part of what we've been doing, is solidifying and networking relationships with external stakeholders that can provide these opportunities for our students. We would then give you the opportunity to apply. Some are remunerated, some aren't, and they would apply for those, and then we would go from there. It's important to see the faces behind who's been working on it. Right now, it's just currently the three of us, which would be Jevron, which is very close to his heart, because this is where the whole culmination of what we do comes together. It's closing the loop of education. It's myself and Marisa. She works at our head office. She's our senior mentor. As we move forward now, we are gaining campus representatives, and so they will hold that space in each campus. Okay, so I've spoken about the campus representatives, and it's not too important to go into the role detail, but I think it's very important that you actually see the faces to the students or the interns that we've put through this process. So these are our 6 interns. I'm very, very proud. I'm like a mother hen because I've seen them come into our office not being able to really hold eye contact or a conversation or put ideas forward, to standing up and presenting to a board of directors their dreams of property development, for example. So our 6 interns who are now going off to do their internships formally, and we've just taken on our 7th. So we look forward to how this program grows and takes shape, dependent on the campus it gets launched in. And we'll open up the board or the floor for questions. Done. Done. Do you want to go?
I just want to add to something that Sandra said, just to quickly go through who these students are and the routes that they took, is that these students, some of them did conventional, normal schooling and have landed up in the same place as students that have done the International Access Qualification. So no one is precluded from the program depending on the curriculum that you choose. It takes you to the same exit. Femi is one of the students that did an International Access Qualification. Femi is now working at the test kitchen. He's being prepared to go work at the launch of the new opening test kitchen in Johannesburg. Carl is one of our students that he set up the bridge. It was his brainchild who set up the co-shared workspace. He's also one of the individuals working on the Capitech project, which we've got. Thomas Vermark is a student that is one of those achievers that pushed very hard. He just turned 18 and is his final year of his BCom in economics. Thomas is the gentleman that's put forward a property development in Komiki, which received its funding 2 weeks ago, which is a 16-unit development, which he put forward. Quite interestingly enough, he didn't negotiate hard enough, and he's only getting a commission for putting it together. But that's the lesson to be learned in life. I have spoken to his mother, and we've made a deal that he'll get one of the apartments in the development in lieu of the commission, but he was almost taught a good lesson. Yasmin is a student that finished very early. She's 15, and she is wanting to specialize in internal architecture. So she's at the moment being mentored by one of South Africa's best marketers, and her role going forward will be to study internal architecture, specializing on space design. Erin is a butterfly. She's touched on multiple different things. She's in love with photography, and she's now looking at working with the Delicious Bokeh team to look at becoming an editor for multimedia design design, etc. And Cody, with his name Cody, has recently been, tomorrow is actually being interviewed for a well-known international programmer who started a business with a gentleman called Ashton Kutcher, which was a business called Gift, which was an international online card business where Cody will become a coder, which is just beautiful. There are other students that are already in the program who are also working at the test kitchen and a few other places, but these are the individuals that actually went through the whole process. I think we should now open up for questions if there are any.
Will it be here?
So yes, so we are officially launching in 2022, and this will be available onto this campus, yes.
Please ask questions.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. So I just wanted to find out quickly. So you've got now this would be this, I'm talking about this alternative accreditation, I don't know lingo down yet. So this would be like separate from your Cambridge or IEB. So you choose to follow this route that will take you the NQF level, or you would then choose the Cambridge or IEB track. It's like a third track you're offering now.
Correct.
All right. Okay. So you have to decide. When do you have to decide this?
So the beautiful
tomorrow.
No, you don't. The beautiful thing about this qualification, specifically designed to dovetail with the school, it's asynchronous. You can start at any time.
Yeah,
it's not required to, and you could start at the age of 16 all the way through to maybe even 19.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about this specifically. I'm talking about so many.
The International Access Qualification.
Yeah, that one.
That qualification, asynchronous, you can start any time.
Is it? Okay, so you can do that parallel or swap over later.
Correct.
Whatever you want.
Correct.
Quite overwhelming. Sorry, I went to normal Model C school. So will you guide the children through it? Because I don't know if I'd actually be able to guide my daughter through all this. Would you then identify it, guide them through it, help them to make those decisions, as opposed to just putting all the information in front of them?
That's why Janine beautifully arranged this way in advance, is that the reason for this is that there'll be plenty of time for you to decide, and there's no lost time. Once it's initiated fully in the school for next year, there are career specialists, academic specialists that will work with the school. They'll also work with the educators in the classroom, and the educators will be seen as a specialist to help identify students as well who might prefer to be on the rapid trajectory, or something that's a little bit more streamlined, or something that's not exam-based. So there's multiple reasons. I've often been asked, is this for children that can't write exams? The answer is no. No. Because students have also said, I'm going to do this. This is cool. I'm going to get a degree, never write an exam. You will fail. Fail.
So, got the mic. In terms of this internship program, if we wanted to be involved to be able to provide an internship, how would you do that?
Did I hear to provide an internship?
To provide an internship.
That's very exciting. And so absolutely, what we do ask is our community, and this would be our campus representative that you would be able to, and that would be soon announced, who that is at this campus. We would be networking with external stakeholders within this community, absolutely. So you could already chat to me, happy, but when we have our campus representative, that would be your go-to person. Amazing.
Please may I ask that you speak into the mic, everyone, so that everyone can hear. Thank you.
Well, must one apply for both these programs, or are they two separate programs?
Two separate? Absolutely. They absolutely do complement each other. You can decide whether you'd like to do them together, or if you'd like to, like I said, our students currently now, some of them are studying and some of them are there full time. And so you could do it either which way. We've had people talk about, okay, I'd like to take a gap year. You could do it that way, but this is designed so that you can do both parallel.
And would they carry on with their other IEBs thing on as well, or not?
Absolutely. So this is, again, designed so that IEB students could take this program on, or our other vocational exiting qualifications.
I just want to highlight the question. The IAB does give you a bigger array of options. You know, the minute you take away the sciences and the language from a qualification, it puts you into certain brackets. The qualifications that will come out later in International Access Qualification is that we are busy with an engineering course. But the engineering course requires us to have our own engineering faculty. So it's a big investment that's required, but it is something on the cards. But once again, the IAB does offer a larger array of options. So this will be specifically for someone that knows that they want to go into the theme of business or the theme of IT and computing. Another reason why we specifically design computing, statistics and analytics is that there is not yet a qualification available to prepare students for the Amazons of the world, etc. Because they are very theory-based. A university degree takes 10 years to culminate. In 10 years' time, you know, there's not even an NFT or cryptocurrency in the syllabus of these qualifications. So it does allow for flexibility in these fields. So we've specifically allocated this to disruptive fields. And the reason we stuck with business is business by definition is not an academic qualification. It is by definition a practical theoretic. It's a practical qualification versus theoretical.
So good evening. My name is Paul Williams. I work for a cybersecurity company. You guys use the technology. Thank you for that. What is your purpose and obviously introduction to bringing for grade 12? Maybe cybersecurity technology is part of the curricula? Because we have academies that we actually could be part of the schooling system as well. They're doing this in America as well as in Europe. Is it possible? Sorry. Oh, is it better? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, sorry, my name is Paul. I work for a cybersecurity company, American based. You guys use the technology, so you know which one it is. What is the purpose, or is it allowed to bring a network academy for cybersecurity and ICT skills into grade 12 as part of the schooling curricula?
Yeah, we would love to. We've been, Fortinet have approached us.
That's it. That's been, I'm the country manager of Fortinet.
Yeah, so, without a doubt.
Okay.
I think what we look for is that there's two ways this works. One, with what the school thinks that the students will have to exit, and then there's what the work needs. So my long-term vision is I almost think that secondary education in 5 to 10 years' time will become obsolete. You'll have your beautiful subjects like math, science, physics will always exist, but your theme-based subjects will be driven differently. The culmination of subjects in one. If there's a business opportunity where people are saying, you know what, we need cybersecurity specialists, developers, etc., you would tell us what the outcomes are that you required. We'd enable the facility here and specialize in creating product outcome for people that you would employ.
I was more thinking about more cybersecurity with business, because a lot of the post-sales activity plus sales is what's lacking in South Africa, specifically even in SADC.
I agree 100%. So we'd definitely say yes, we'd be interested, and then we'd be, okay, could this campus work? And then we'd open up to further people. The Junior to Giant program would also eventually be open up to external people, which means that if someone's finished matric at another school, they want to come here and do the Junior to Giants program, they could work within the academy. So the academy could definitely sit within Junior to Giants.
Thank you.
Firstly, I want to say thank you. When I think back to this time last year, the confusion and insecurity that us parents from the old school felt, not knowing what was coming, this is phenomenal. So thank you very much. My son is going into grade 7 next year. He's part of the 9 to 12 phase now. What does next year look like for him? What is, this is beautiful, but how do we get from where we are to that lovely picture?
So I think it's quite interesting that in grade 7 onwards all the way to grade 10 you have an integrated curriculum. So the IAB examinational curriculum starts from grade 10 onwards, and the schools do it there, and that's why this dovetails at that 16-year-old age group. The skill sets that children are taught from that age until 16 are invaluable because it teaches you how to reason, academic writing, etc. So they go through the process of still going through the curriculum framework. However, the enrichment of this program allows for the continuity of the space for SCI students. So for students that are going to go that route, they will be able to still have access to this information. It's not yet a formulated program on campus for it, but we do not think it's wise for students under the age of 16 to deviate into a completely, different qualification, because it does them a disinjustice in case you move. because this qualification is only offered here. So we on purposely stuck towards what the IAB curriculum was. It's not the IAB, the international. What is the exact word, Janine? Integrated curriculum that's offered. We've on purposely stuck with that so that students aren't disadvantaged in case they move. The content is available. You can always have a conversation with the educators. It is very enriching, but it's just almost like a rite of passage where it's important. One of the notions that we had when we started investigating this 2 years ago was we were going to make it mandatory for students to write IGCSE exams to have access to this. Through the process of this, we realized that unfortunately it's not. However, there are always outliers. So, Yasmin finishing school at 15 is an outlier, but she's one of those people who knew exactly what she wanted to do. And it would almost be futile for someone, even though she was academically very strong, to push her through a schooling syllabus that she just wasn't going to do. And that's a case-by-case basis, which the school will be able to accommodate.
Just a practical question. So we have parents who have had from another primary school to coming to Generations for high school, but we do have other kids. I keep hearing you guys say grade 7 to grade 9, and I'm wondering whether we should be transitioning kids at the start of grade 7 instead of the start of grade 8, but not really understanding that because of traditional schooling where primary school ends in grade 7. So if you can perhaps explain that, that would be helpful for the other kids sort of coming behind the first one, if that makes sense.
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Could you rephrase it, please?
Sure, no problem. So we're in another primary school, which finishes at grade 7, coming to Generations for high school, which starts at grade 8. But throughout your presentation, I've often heard you speak about a block of education starting at grade 7. I've often heard grade 7 through to grade 9. So I'm wondering, for the other children in the family, whether they should be leaving primary school at grade 6 and coming to Generations at grade 7. But I don't really get that because traditional primary school finishes at the end of grade 7 and high school starts in grade 8. So I don't understand why we've heard so often grade 7 through to grade 9.
Jean, I'll answer first and you'll answer. First of all, it's unfortunate that your children aren't here. That would be the first thing. And before Jeannie, I just want to just stipulate something, is that whatever you change at the top has to be changed all the way through. So, when we took over the school, I think parents thought that we were just going to take over the school and everything would change over day one. The minute you do that, you create chaos. However, there is an infusion of what we do, which is the backbone of our education, which permeates all the way through to grade 7. But Janine, you go for it.
I think obviously, yes, we'd love to have your children here in grade 7. That would be wonderful. But it's not a disadvantage to a child who will follow the traditional way of finishing primary school and coming here in grade 8. We're trying to have a common language that fits in with all the schools. So it's just a phase. So in our school at the moment, we're talking about a phase, grade 7 to grade 12. If you're part of Generations, you'll move in that grade 7 to grade 12 phase. But if you join us in grade 8, you haven't lost out on anything. The curriculum is still the same. The curriculum they've covered at the other school is still the same. It's just the children who are already in the system and moving along, they in that grade 7 to 12 phase. I think one of the things that excites me about all that's been happening here tonight is we've started to think about how are we teaching our grade 7 to 9s. You were asking, your son, he likes the kitchen, he likes the idea of what's happening there, that's his passion. Why can he not do an internship in grade 7 on a Tuesday afternoon to go and work with Chef Tian and prepare the food for the next day? There is no reason why that can't happen in grade 7, 8 or 9. And so those are the things we've started to ask ourselves. If children come to me and they're passionate about food or they're passionate about whatever it might be, how can we serve that passion? They don't have to always be sitting in extra support class on a Tuesday afternoon if they want to be working with Chef Tian, learning about the kitchen and how to chop and dice and how does he prepare. So I think that's the exciting thing. It's made us rethink what we offer at our school to ignite that passion.
I think I just want to add something to Janine says. There's something called academic backwash. So academic backwash, when you take a swig of a cool drink and you let some of it go back inside, My children do it a lot, so I know what it is. Is that every school has an outcome. So if the outcome of a school is designed to get you to matric, and that's their outcome, the definition of their is the results. So if you have a school and it's to get you to matric, and that's the results. The minute you change the definition of our school and say, our school would like to take you to profession, I would have used the word self-actualization, but Maslow hierarchy of needs has changed. So I'm just going to use the word profession or enlightenment. And that backwash will now start filtering through. Educators will think differently. Parents will start thinking differently because it opens up lots of opportunities, and then there's a natural progression for students to be able to move around a space that's no longer rigid around one outcome. All of a sudden, the school's thought is that we might not lose all our matrics when they leave school. They might progress into higher education. They might join us back for employment. They might professionally join us in our organization. We've recently gone to the Junior to Giants program and said we need 60 qualified teachers by 2030. 60 qualified teachers. It's your job to get them. We want them from school. We want them to be trained. We'll pay for their training. There's a process that we need to have to get them there. And we've now realized we've started getting phone calls from other institutions. The test kitchen is an example. How many more chefs have you got? How many front of staff have you got? SMG, which caused a bit of a stir with Land Rover, etc., which was problematic, I apologize, is that they are one of our customers. They're saying, how many of these people can you get us? We need X amount of people working in our workshops. We need X amount of people on our sales force. So they've come to us and said, now we've also explained that we're not breeding employment. We're not an employment agency. However, we will provide people for internships that they can make decision on free will whether they would like to go and spend some time with your organization or not.
Did I understand you correct that you said you dropping writing GSE or IGCSE?
No. What we said was that we would make it we were going to make it compulsory for students to progress into those qualifications. What the school's done here very well is that they've mapped the curriculum so the students could write those examinations. But what we were going to do is make it compulsory for you to enter our vocational qualification, and through the process we realized it doesn't work. Okay, that's it. Thank you very, very much. There is information packs. Mark, do you want to just end off? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. As I said at the beginning of the evening, we really value your time that you've taken out of your day to be here. So we've actually got some nice packs. They're out in the foyer. Janine and her team will be able to hand that to you. And in that pack, you'll see more literature on everything that was explained this evening. And if you have any questions, please contact Janine directly or any of the other educators who will be facilitating the Junior to Giant program. And as mentioned earlier, the offer of any kind of collaboration for Junior to Giants, if you have a business and you have an idea that you'd like to propose, Sandra de Abreu will be your point of contact. And of course, Jevron, as he is here, you can try pitch something to him if you want. Anyway, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And to all our viewers online, we thank you as well. And have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you.